The space around Earth began to shimmer and twist as thousands of quantum field generators activated at once. The alien fleet found themselves trapped in something they could not understand. Their ships stopped moving, as if they had been caught in invisible chains. Their engines roared, but the vessels did not budge even a centimeter. Commander Vextar felt his massive flagship shudder as it tried to move forward. The engines were working perfectly, but the ship was going nowhere. "What is happening?" he screamed at his navigation officer. "Why are we not moving?" "Sir, the engines are at full power," the officer replied with panic in his voice. "All systems show normal operation, but we are not moving at all. It is like we are stuck in solid rock." Across the Confederation fleet, the same thing was happening. 15,000 warships found themselves completely unable to move. They could not fire their weapons. They could not communicate with each other. They were trapped like insects in amber. Dr. Rachel Bennett watched her screens with satisfaction. The quantum field lock was working perfectly. Every alien ship was held in a bubble of twisted space that made movement impossible. "Spatial lock, confirmed across all enemy vessels," she reported to Admiral Harrison. "They are completely immobilized." "How long can we maintain this?" asked General Morrison. "Indefinitely," Bennett replied with a smile. "The fields sustain themselves once they are established. We could keep them locked up for 100 years if we wanted to." Admiral Harrison stood on the bridge of the Liberty and looked out at the Yao alien fleet. 15,000 ships hung motionless in space like a museum display. It was the largest military force ever assembled in this part of the galaxy. Now it was completely helpless. "Open a communication channel to all enemy ships," Harrison ordered. "I think it is time we had a proper conversation with our guests." Harrison's image appeared on screens throughout the Confederation fleet. Behind him, the bridge of the Liberty hummed with quiet efficiency. His crew moved calmly about their duties as if they were not facing an enemy fleet 50 times larger than their own. "Greetings, members of the Galactic Confederation," Harrison began in a friendly tone. "I hope you are comfortable out there. I know this situation might be confusing, so let me explain what is happening to you." Captain Danny Wright watched from his battleship Constitution as the Admiral continued his broadcast. Wright had known Harrison for 10 years and had never seen him lose his calm. Even now, facing the largest invasion fleet in galactic history, Harrison looked like he was having a pleasant conversation with old friends. "You see, for the past 10 years you have been watching humanity expand into space. You thought you were observing a desperate species fighting for survival. What you were actually witnessing was the careful construction of the largest defense network in galactic history." On his flagship, Vextar listened to the human admiral with growing horror. This was not how invasions were supposed to work. The primitive species was supposed to surrender when they saw the size of the Confederation fleet. They were not supposed to capture the entire invasion force. Every human ship you cataloged, every colony you observed, every outpost you dismissed as harmless. They are all part of an integrated defense system that now covers this entire region of space. Harrison continued. "What you thought was humanity's weakness was actually humanity's greatest strength." Lieutenant Colonel Mike Davis coordinated the operation from his command center on Luna. His screens showed detailed scans of every ship in the alien fleet. The quantum scanners could see through their hulls and map everything inside. "Admiral, we have complete tactical analysis of their entire fleet. We know their weapons, their defenses, their crew numbers, even what they had for breakfast." Harrison nodded and continued his address to the trapped aliens. "Right now your ships cannot move, cannot fire, and cannot communicate except through channels we allow. Your entire invasion force is at our mercy. But here's the interesting part. We do not want to destroy you." This was not what Vextar had expected to hear. In his experience, the victor always destroyed the defeated enemy. It was the way of the galaxy. The strong crushed the weak and took their resources. But these humans were talking about mercy. "You came here believing that humanity was a threat to galactic peace," Harrison said. "Perhaps we are a threat, but not in the way you think. We have spent considerable time studying your galactic confederation. We have learned about your government, your laws, your treatment of member species. We are not impressed." Captain Laura Rodriguez watched from her command ship as intelligence reports scrolled across her screens. For 3 years, human traders and diplomats had gathered information about the Confederation. They had learned about the corruption, the oppression, the suffering of billions of beings under Confederation rule. Your leaders live in luxury, while member species starve under crushing taxation, Harrison continued. His voice carried disappointment rather than anger. Your laws protect the powerful while destroying the weak. Your peacekeeping forces are nothing more than bullies who enforce the will of corrupt politicians. The Admiral paused to let his words sink in before delivering his final message. The Galactic Confederation as you know it ends today. We are establishing something new in its place. A true federation based on equality and mutual respect. Every species will have an equal voice and equal protection under law. Throughout the galaxy, species that had suffered under Confederation rule for centuries listened to the human broadcast. On worlds that had been stripped of their resources, on planets where freedom was just a memory, beings who had given up hope began to believe again. Commander Betty Clark monitored communications. From dozens of member worlds, she watched as celebrations began to break out across the galaxy. Admiral, we are receiving messages of support from over 200 worlds. They are calling it Liberation Day. Harrison smiled at that news but continued his broadcast. Your ships will be released and you will be free to return to your home worlds. But understand this. The age of galactic bullies is over. Humanity did not come to conquer the galaxy. We came to liberate it. As the transmission ended, Dr. Bennett began the delicate process of releasing the quantum fields. She could not free all the ships at once or they might try to attack again. Instead, she released them in small groups while keeping their weapons disabled. Beginning selective field release, she announced. Starting with the smaller vessels, all weapons remain locked. One by one, alien ships found themselves able to move again, but their weapon systems remained frozen by quantum field manipulation. They could fly, but they could not fight. Vextar felt his flagship lurch as the invisible bonds released it. He immediately tried to fire on the nearest human vessel, but nothing happened. His weapons were completely dead. What have they done to our guns? He demanded. The quantum fields have somehow fused the weapon control circuits, his tactical officer reported. The weapons are physically intact, but they will not respond to any commands. Human escort ships moved alongside the alien vessels as they prepared to depart. The massive invasion fleet that had come to conquer humanity was now leaving as refugees from their own former empire. Admiral Harrison remained on the bridge of the Liberty, watching the alien ships begin their journey home. Captain Collins joined him at the viewport. Both men shared a moment of quiet satisfaction. Think any of them will cause trouble on the way home? Collins asked. Harrison shook his head. No. They have learned something important today. They discovered that there are consequences for being a bully. Now they have to go home and explain to their people why their mighty fleet was defeated by a species they thought was primitive. In the days that followed, the new Galactic Federation would be established with Earth as its capital. Representatives from hundreds of worlds would come to participate in a government unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Justice would be truly blind, and the strong would protect the weak instead of exploiting them. 6 months after the failed invasion, the galaxy had become a very different place. The Galactic Federation was growing stronger every day as more worlds joined the alliance. But not everyone was happy with the changes. The Krolic Empire had spent those months building a new fleet and gathering allies who missed the old ways. Emperor Gakalor of the Krolic stood in his war room on the fortress world of Krolon Prime. Around him, holographic displays showed the positions of over 8,000 warships. Unlike the previous invasion, this fleet was built specifically to fight humans. We have studied their quantum technology, Gakalor announced to his war council. Our scientists believe they have found a way to disrupt their space-folding abilities. This time we will not be caught off guard. The new Krolic ships were equipped with quantum disruptor fields designed to prevent human vessels from disappearing and reappearing at will. They also carried new weapons that could supposedly punch through human shields. At least that was what the Krolic scientists claimed. But the Krolak were not attacking alone this time. They had formed an alliance with other species who refused to accept the new order. The Vegan corporate state provided funding and supplies. The Altair Military Republic contributed 3,000 ships. Even some Zephyrian commanders had joined the rebellion. On Earth, Admiral Harrison received intelligence reports about the gathering enemy fleet. Unlike 6 months ago, he was not facing this threat with just human forces. The Galactic Federation now had its own military composed of volunteers from dozens of worlds. The Thaxians are contributing 500 mining vessels converted to warships, reported Captain Jennifer Blake, who now served as Federation Fleet Coordinator. The Rigel Defense Force is sending 200 patrol ships, even the peaceful. Centauri have offered medical support ships. Harrison smiled as he reviewed the reports. The Federation fleet was smaller than the Krolak Alliance, but it had something the enemy lacked: unity of purpose. These species were fighting to protect their newfound freedom, not to restore an oppressive empire. Dr. Rachel Bennett had spent the past months training alien engineers in quantum field technology. Now dozens of species had their own quantum-capable ships. The technology was no longer a human secret. Federation ships are reporting successful quantum field tests, Bennett announced from her laboratory. The Thaxian vessels can now achieve limited invisibility. The Rigel ships have mastered spacefolding for rapid movement. But the real surprise was what the other species had added to human technology. The Aquarian scientists had found ways to extend quantum fields underwater and through liquid environments. The crystalline engineers had learned to use quantum fields to strengthen materials at the molecular level. Lieutenant Colonel Mike Davis coordinated the combined fleet from his command center. His screen showed ships from 30 different species, taking positions throughout the solar system. "It is beautiful to see," he told his staff. 6 months ago, these species were enemies or strangers. Now they are working together like they have been allies for centuries. The enemy fleet arrived exactly when intelligence had predicted. 8,000 ships emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the solar system. But this time, they faced a very different reception. Captain Laura Rodriguez commanded the Federation battleship Unity, a vessel built with technology from a dozen different species. Her crew included humans, Thaxians, Rigelians, and Centauri working side by side. "Enemy fleet detected," announced her Thaxian sensor operator. "They are moving in formation toward Earth. But Admiral, something is wrong with their approach." Rodriguez studied her tactical display. The enemy ships were maintaining perfect formation, but they were moving slowly and carefully. "They are scared," she realized. "They remember what happened to the last fleet that came here." Emperor Gaklor watched nervously as his fleet approached the inner solar system. He expected the humans to use their disappearing trick again. His ships were ready, with their quantum disruptors, but the human vessels remained visible and seemed to be waiting in normal formation. "This is too easy," Gaklor muttered to his tactical officer. "Where are their quantum fields? Why are they not hiding their ships?" What the Krolak Emperor did not realize was that the Federation no longer needed to hide. They had something much more powerful than invisible ships. They had willing allies fighting for a cause they believed in. The battle began when the first Krolak ships entered weapons range. But instead of the one-sided massacre Gaklor expected, his forces found themselves facing fierce resistance from an enemy that fought with perfect coordination. Captain Tony Roberts piloted his destroyer alongside a Thaxian cruiser and a Rigelian escort ship. The three vessels moved as one unit, their quantum fields linked to share shields and firepower. When Krolak ships tried to target one vessel, all three would phase shift together. "This is incredible," Roberts called out over the communication link. "Our quantum fields are amplifying each other. We are 3 times stronger together than we would be alone." This was something Dr. Bennett had discovered during the training exercises. When quantum fields from different ships overlapped, they created interference patterns that actually strengthened both fields. Federation ships could share their defenses and combine their weapons in ways that had never been possible before. Commander Vextar found himself fighting alongside the Krolak despite his doubts about the mission. His ship faced a formation of human and alien vessels that seemed to dance around his weapon's fire. Every time he targeted one ship, it would phase out of existence while another appeared behind him. "How are they doing this?" demanded his weapons officer. "Our disruptors should be preventing their quantum fields from working." "They are not using quantum fields the way we expected," Vextar replied grimly. "They have learned to link their fields together. Our disruptors can only affect one field at a time." The battle raged for 6 hours, but the outcome was never really in doubt. The Federation forces fought with a unity and determination that the Alliance could not match. Species that had been enemies for generations worked together seamlessly. While the Krolak Alliance struggled with communication problems and conflicting tactics, Admiral Harrison watched the battle from his command ship, surrounded by liaison officers from the Federation member worlds. Ambassador Elena Martinez stood beside him as reports came in from across the battlefield. "The Krolak Center is collapsing," reported a Centauri tactical officer. "Their ships are breaking formation and trying to retreat. Pursuing enemy vessels, are requesting permission to accept surrenders," added a Thaxian communications specialist. Harrison nodded approvingly. "Grant permission. Anyone who surrenders will be treated according to Federation law. No revenge, no punishment beyond what justice requires." This was perhaps the most important difference between the old Confederation and the new Federation. When the Confederation won a battle, they usually destroyed the enemy completely, but the Federation offered mercy to those who laid down their arms. Emperor Gaklor watched his mighty fleet dissolve around him. Ship after ship was either destroyed or forced to surrender. His quantum disruptors had failed completely. His superior numbers meant nothing against an enemy that fought as one unified force. "All ships retreat to hyperspace," he finally ordered. "This battle is lost." But as the remaining Krolak ships tried to escape, they found their path blocked by Federation vessels that had appeared from folded space. The retreat became a rout as more and more ships surrendered rather than face destruction. Captain Danny Wright accepted the surrender of a Krolak battleship from the bridge of his Federation cruiser. "You fought bravely," he told the alien captain, through the translator. "Your crew will be treated with respect and returned to your homeworld when this conflict ends." The Krolak captain stared at Wright in confusion. "You are not going to execute us?" "Execution is not justice," Wright replied. "Justice is giving you the chance to build a better future for your people." When the battle ended, the Federation had captured or destroyed most of the Alliance fleet. Emperor Gakalor escaped with less than 1,000 ships. The dream of restoring the old Confederation died in the wreckage floating around Earth. But the real victory was not military. It was the proof that different species could work together as equals. The galaxy had seen that the Federation was not just human propaganda. It was a real alternative to the old ways. In the months that followed, even more worlds joined the Federation. The Krolak Empire itself split apart as many worlds chose freedom over empire. Emperor Gaklor found himself ruling a fraction of his former territory. Dr. Bennett continued her work sharing quantum technology with anyone who wanted to learn. Her laboratories became centers of learning where scientists from dozens of species worked together to push the boundaries of knowledge. "Knowledge shared is knowledge multiplied," she often said to her students. "When we teach others, we learn as much as they do." Admiral Harrison eventually stepped down from military command to become the first president of the Galactic Federation. His inauguration was attended by representatives from over 500 worlds. "Today we begin a new chapter in galactic history," he said in his inaugural address. The weeks following the failed invasion brought changes that nobody in the galaxy had expected. News of humanity's victory spread faster than light across thousands of worlds. Species that had lived under Confederation oppression for generations began to see hope for the first time in centuries. On the industrial world of Kepler 442, the Thaxian workers stopped their mining operations and looked up at the sky. For 50 years, they had labored 18 hours a day to meet Confederation quotas. Their children had never seen sunlight because they worked in the deep mines from birth. But now human ships appeared in orbit carrying supplies and medical aid. Captain Jennifer Blake commanded the relief mission to Kepler 442. Her ship, the Freedom, was one of hundreds of human vessels now visiting former Confederation worlds. "The living conditions down there are worse than we expected," she reported to Earth Command. "These people have been worked nearly to death." Dr. Sarah Williams accompanied Blake on the mission. She was a medical officer who had volunteered to help heal the damage done by decades of Confederation rule. "Malnutrition is widespread," she reported after examining Thaxian children. "Many of them have never had enough food. The Confederation took everything and left these people with almost nothing." This scene was repeated across the galaxy. On Rigel 7, the amphibious Zell people had been forced to drain their sacred lakes. To provide water for Confederation industrial complexes, human engineers arrived with equipment to restore the water systems and return the lakes to their natural state. Lieutenant Paul Anderson led the restoration team on Rigel 7. He watched as clear water began to flow back into the ancient lake beds. Elder Zell priests wept with joy as they saw their holy places returning to life. "We thought our gods had abandoned us," said Elder Kresh through a translation device. "For 30 years we watched our world die. Now the humans bring life back to our sacred waters." But not everyone was happy with the changes. On Zephyria Prime, the homeworld of Commander Vextar's species, anger and confusion ruled the capital city. The Zephyrian Empire had been the most powerful member of the Confederation. They had grown rich by exploiting weaker species. Vextar himself stood before the Zephyrian High Council, trying to explain how 15,000 ships had been defeated by a species they had considered primitive. "The humans have technology we never imagined," he said. "They can bend space itself to their will. They made our entire fleet disappear and reappear at will." "Impossible," snarled Council Leader Drexmore. "No species is that advanced. You must have been tricked somehow." "I saw it with my own eyes," Vextar replied. "Our ships were frozen in space like toys. We could not move, could not fire, could not even communicate. The humans held 15,000 warships captive and released us only when they chose to." The council members looked at each other with worry. If the humans were truly that powerful, then the age of Zephyrian dominance was over. For the first time in their history, they were not the strongest species in the galaxy. On Earth, Admiral Harrison worked with delegates from across the galaxy to establish the new Federation government. The old Confederation capital on Proxima, Centauri, had been abandoned. In its place, a massive space station was being built in Earth orbit to serve as the Federation headquarters. "The basic principle is simple," Harrison explained to a gathering of species representatives. "Every world gets one vote regardless of size or population. The strong cannot dominate the weak. Laws must be approved by a majority of all member worlds." This was revolutionary thinking for most of the galaxy. The old Confederation had given more votes to species that paid higher taxes. Since the rich species could afford higher taxes, they controlled the government. The poor worlds had no voice at all. Ambassador Elena Martinez represented Earth in the early Federation discussions. She had been a diplomat before the invasion and understood how difficult it would be to change centuries of galactic politics. "Many species do not trust us yet," she reported to Harrison. "They think this is just another form of human domination. Give them time," Harrison replied. "Actions speak louder than words. When they see that we mean what we say, they will begin to trust us." The proof came in the form of human aid ships that arrived at every former Confederation world. Unlike the old government, humans did not demand payment for their help. They brought food to hungry worlds, medicine to sick populations, and technology to underdeveloped species. Dr. Rachel Bennett worked around the clock to share quantum field technology with other species. This was perhaps the most revolutionary decision of all. Most advanced species kept their best technology secret to maintain their advantage over others, but humans freely shared their greatest discovery. "Knowledge belongs to everyone," Bennett explained to a gathering of alien scientists. "We will teach you to build quantum field generators. We will show you how to fold space and create clean energy. All we ask is that you use this technology to help others, not to hurt them." Not all species were ready to accept this new way of thinking. The Krolik Empire, which had provided many of the heavy ships in the invasion fleet, withdrew to their home systems and refused to join the new Federation. They began building new ships and preparing for another war. General Frank Morrison monitored Krolak activities from his intelligence center on Mars. "They are definitely planning something," he reported to Harrison. "Our spy satellites show massive military construction in their home system." "Let them build," Harrison replied calmly. "If they want to test themselves against quantum field technology again, we will be ready." The Krolak were not the only holdouts. Several other species refused to accept the end of the old order. They formed their own alliance and began planning to restore the Confederation by force. But for every species that rejected the new Federation, 3 others joined eagerly. The representatives came to Earth from worlds that had never been allowed to speak for themselves. They brought stories of oppression and dreams of freedom. Captain Tony Roberts commanded the escort ships that brought these delegates to Earth. He watched as beings from 100 different worlds worked together for the first time in galactic history. "It is amazing to see," he told his crew. "Species that were enemies for centuries are now sitting at the same table trying to build something better." The new Federation faced many challenges. Different species had different ideas about law and justice. Some believed in punishment while others preferred rehabilitation. Some valued individual freedom while others emphasized community responsibility. But slowly, compromises were reached. The Universal Declaration of Sentient Rights was drafted and approved by 230 worlds. It guaranteed basic freedoms to all intelligent beings regardless of species, homeworld, or technological level. Ambassador Martinez read the declaration to the Assembly as representatives from across the galaxy listened. "All sentient beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. They are endowed with reason and conscience and should act towards one another in a spirit of brotherhood." The words were simple, but their meaning was profound. For the first time in galactic history, there was a universal law that protected the weak from the strong. Not everyone was happy with these developments. On dozens of worlds, former Confederation officials plotted rebellion. They had grown rich under the old system and did not want to give up their power. Commander Betty Clark monitored communications across the galaxy from her intelligence post on Luna. "We are detecting organized resistance movements on at least 50 worlds," she reported. "Some are planning terrorist attacks against Federation facilities." "Expected," Harrison replied. "People who benefit from oppression never give up without a fight, but they will learn that the galaxy has changed forever." The test of the new Federation would come sooner than anyone expected. The Krolak Empire had finished building their new fleet and were preparing to strike at Earth itself. But this time, humanity would not be fighting alone. Admiral Kyle Harrison stood on the bridge of the UES Liberty and looked out at the stars. Today was the day they had all been waiting for. 3 months ago, the aliens had sent their message to Earth. They called themselves the Galactic Confederation, and they were not happy with humanity. The message was simple: surrender or die. Now they were here. Harrison watched as ship after ship appeared in space around Earth. First came the sleek silver vessels of the Zephyrians, then the massive black ships of the Krolak Empire. After them came smaller ships from dozens of other alien species. Each ship was bigger than anything humans had ever built. Each ship carried enough firepower to destroy a city. "Sir, we count 15,000 enemy ships," said Lieutenant Commander Lisa Murphy from her station. Her voice was calm, but Harrison could hear the worry underneath. "They have us completely surrounded." Captain Greg Collins walked up to Harrison and smiled. It was a strange time to smile, but Collins had always been different. 15,000 ships, Collins said. "They really want to make sure we get the message." The main screen on the bridge lit up. A huge reptile face appeared on the screen. Its eyes were yellow and cold. Its teeth were sharp and white. This was Supreme Commander Vextar of the Zephyrian Empire. Harrison had seen his picture in the intelligence reports, Humans of Earth. Vextar spoke in perfect English. His voice was deep and threatening. "You have ignored our warnings. You have built colonies in our space. You have taken resources that belong to the Galactic Confederation. Your species is dangerous. You grow too fast and take too much. But we are merciful. Surrender now and we will let you live. You will become our servants, but you will live." Harrison looked around his bridge. His crew was watching him. They were waiting for his answer. These men and women had trained for this moment for years. They knew what was coming next. Harrison pressed the communication button. "Commander Vextar, this is Admiral Harrison of the United Earth Space Navy. Thank you for traveling such a long way to visit us. I am afraid we must refuse your generous offer." Vextar's yellow eyes narrowed. "Then you choose death. Your primitive ships cannot stand against the might of 15,000 warships. We will show you what happens when a young species refuses to know its place." The screen went dark. Harrison turned to his crew. Every person on the bridge was looking at him. Some were scared, some were excited, all of them were ready. "Well, friends," Harrison said with the same calm smile, "it looks like our guests want to see what we can do. Signal all ships. Tell them it is time for Operation Checkmate." Lisa Murphy's fingers flew over her control panel. Across the solar system, human ships received the signal they had been waiting 3 years to hear. On Mars, Captain Jennifer Blake received the message at her mining station. She smiled and pressed a button. The mining equipment around her station shimmered and disappeared. In its place stood massive weapons that had been hidden for years. Near Jupiter, Lieutenant Paul Anderson sat in what looked like a simple cargo ship. When he got the signal, he pressed his own button. The cargo containers on his ship faded away like smoke. Underneath was a heavy battle cruiser with enough weapons to destroy a small moon. All across human space, the same thing was happening. Mining stations became fortresses. Cargo ships became warships. Empty space filled with human vessels that had been invisible just moments before. The aliens had been watching humanity for 10 years. They thought they knew everything about human ships and human colonies. They had counted every vessel and mapped every base. What they did not know was that they had been seeing lies. Every ship they counted was fake. Every base they mapped was hiding something much bigger and much more dangerous. Dr. Rachel Bennett sat in her underground laboratory on Earth. She watched her screens as the quantum field generators came online across the solar system. 3 years ago, she had discovered how to bend space itself. She had found a way to make things invisible by wrapping space around them. She had found a way to make ships appear in one place when they were really somewhere else. The alien fleet began to move toward Earth. Their ships were in perfect formation. They had done this many times before with other species. Those species had always surrendered when they saw the size of the Confederation fleet. Humans would be no different. But as the alien ships moved closer to Earth, something strange happened. New human ships began appearing everywhere. They came out of empty space like ghosts becoming solid. Small human fighters appeared right next to huge alien battleships. Human destroyers materialized behind Confederation cruisers. Commander Vextar stared at his tactical display in shock. Moments before, his sensors had shown him a small human fleet of maybe 300 ships. Now his screens showed thousands of human vessels appearing from nowhere. They were surrounding his fleet from all sides. How is this possible? Vextar roared at his officers. Where did these ships come from? Our sensors showed nothing there before. His tactical officer was pressing buttons frantically. Sir, our sensors still show nothing in those locations, but we can see the ships with our eyes. They are firing on us, but our computers say there is nothing there to fire. Captain Tony Roberts commanded the human destroyer Silent Thunder. His ship appeared right behind a massive Krolik dreadnought. The alien ship was so big that Roberts' entire vessel could fit inside one of its weapon turrets. But size did not matter when the enemy could not see you coming. Roberts fired every weapon his ship had. The quantum torpedoes struck the alien dreadnought's engines and tore them apart. Before the aliens could turn their guns on him, Roberts pressed a button and his ship vanished again. All across the battle zone, the same scene played out over and over. Human ships would appear, strike hard, and disappear before the aliens could fight back. To the Confederation fleet, it seemed like the humans could teleport their ships anywhere they wanted. Harrison watched the battle from his bridge. His small smile had not changed. The aliens had brought 15,000 ships to destroy humanity. What they did not know was that they were fighting less than 10% of the actual human fleet. The rest was still hidden, waiting for the right moment to reveal itself. The real surprise was still coming. 3 years earlier, Dr. Rachel Bennett had been working in a secret laboratory buried deep under the mountains of Colorado. She was studying something called quantum fields. Most people did not understand her work. Even other scientists found it hard to follow. But Rachel knew she was close to something important. She had been trying to understand how space itself worked. Space was not empty like most people thought. It was full of energy and forces that could be changed if you knew how. Rachel had been working on this problem for 5 years when she finally found the answer. General Morrison, she had said to her military supervisor, "I think I have found something that will change everything." She was excited but also scared. What she had discovered could save humanity or destroy it. General Frank Morrison was a practical man. He did not understand science, but he understood results. "Show me what you have found, Doctor." Rachel led him to her laboratory. The room was filled with machines that hummed with power. In the center was a metal chair. "Sit in the chair, General." "Do not worry, it is perfectly safe." Morrison sat down. Rachel pressed some buttons on her control panel. Suddenly, Morrison disappeared. He was still sitting in the chair, but nobody could see him. Even the chair looked empty. "Where did I go?" Morrison asked. His voice seemed to come from nowhere. "You are still there," Rachel explained. "I have bent space around you. Light cannot reach you, so you cannot be seen. Radar cannot find you. Even heat sensors cannot detect you. You have become invisible." She pressed another button, and Morrison appeared again. He looked down at his hands with wonder. "This is incredible. How does it work?" Rachel tried to explain it in simple terms. "Space is like a blanket. Usually the blanket is flat. But I have learned how to fold the blanket around objects. When space is folded the right way, things can be hidden inside the folds. Light goes around them instead of hitting them." "Can you do this to ships?" Morrison asked. "I can do it to anything," Rachel replied. "Ships, buildings, entire space stations. I can even fold space to move things from one place to another instantly. If we put this technology on our ships, we could hide our entire fleet from any enemy." Morrison understood immediately. "How long would it take to build this for our ships?" "Give me 2 years and unlimited resources," Rachel said. "I can equip every human vessel with quantum field generators." That was the beginning of the greatest deception in human history. While the aliens watched and counted human ships, every vessel they saw was just a hologram. The real ships were hidden inside folded space, invisible to all sensors. Captain Jennifer Blake had been part of the deception from the beginning. Her mining station in the Kepler system looked like a simple operation. The aliens had observed it for years. They saw miners digging asteroids and cargo ships carrying ore. What they did not see was the massive fortress hidden underneath. The mining equipment was real, but it was just a shell. Inside the quantum fields was a military base, with enough firepower to destroy a small fleet. Hundreds of fighters were hidden in the folded space around the asteroids. Weapon platforms that could punch holes through battleship armor were disguised as communication arrays. 3 years of pretending to be miners, Blake said to her second-in-command, Lieutenant Sarah Williams. "I almost forgot we were soldiers," Williams laughed. "The aliens think we are simple people digging rocks. They have no idea we have been preparing for war this whole time." All across human space, the same deception was being played out. Every human colony the aliens had cataloged was actually a hidden military base. Every cargo ship they had tracked was really a warship in disguise. Every research station they had dismissed was actually a weapons platform. Lieutenant Paul Anderson had spent 2 years flying cargo runs between Earth and Mars. The aliens had watched his ship hundreds of times. They had scanned it and found nothing but mining equipment and food supplies. They never suspected that the Happy Trader was actually a heavy cruiser with enough missiles to level a city. "I got so good at acting like a space trucker that I almost believed it myself," Anderson told his co-pilot during the battle. "But it feels good to finally drop the act and show them what we really are." The quantum field technology did more than just hide ships. It allowed human vessels to appear and disappear at will. A ship could attack from one direction, then instantly move to another location hundreds of kilometers away. To the aliens, it looked like magic. Dr. Bennett watched the battle from her underground control room. Her screen showed the quantum field status of every human ship in the solar system. The technology was working perfectly. The alien fleet was completely confused. "They still think they are fighting a few hundred human ships," she reported to General Morrison. "They have no idea that we have over 5,000 vessels in this battle. And they still have not seen our real surprise." Morrison replied with a grim smile. The real surprise was something that Dr. Bennett had discovered, by accident. While working on the quantum field generators, she had found that the fields themselves could be used as weapons. By creating the right kind of distortion in space, she could crush enemy ships without firing a single missile. Captain Tony Roberts piloted his destroyer through the enemy formation like a ghost. His ship would appear behind an alien vessel, fire all weapons, then vanish before the enemy could respond. The aliens were starting to panic. Their formations were breaking apart as ships tried to defend against attacks that came from nowhere. "Their discipline is falling apart," Roberts reported to Admiral Harrison. "They have never fought an enemy they could not see." But the confusion was about to get much worse. Dr. Bennett had been waiting for the right moment to activate her final weapon. All across the solar system, hidden quantum field generators were powering up. They had been built into asteroids and space stations. Some were hidden inside the hulls of the disguised human ships. "Admiral," Bennett reported to Harrison, "all field generators are ready. We can activate the spatial lock on your command." Harrison looked at his tactical display. The alien fleet was scattered and confused, but they were still fighting. It was time to end this battle once and for all. "Dr. Bennett," Harrison said calmly, "you may fire when ready." Bennett pressed a single button. Across the solar system, thousands of quantum field generators activated at the same moment. Space itself began to twist and bend around the alien fleet. What happened next would change the balance of power in the galaxy forever.